10 wildest factory-built muscle cars over the quarter mile. All right, muscle fans, buckle up. American muscle was never subtle, big engines, big noise, but some factory-built monsters pushed things so far they felt illegal. These weren't tuner builds or backyard specials. These were showroom-stock beasts that could vaporize tires, humble supercars, and rewrite the quarter-mile rulebook the moment you drop the hammer. And trust me, the #1 spot will leave you questioning how it was ever sold to the public. Let's dive in. 10. 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Demon. It started as a factory experiment, a street-legal brute that Chrysler engineers quietly shaped into something the NHRA practically refused to acknowledge. A car born from a normal showroom lineup, yet tuned with the kind of intent you normally see in restricted classes. And before we say its name, let's just say this. No modern muscle car has ever scared its own corporate lawyers quite like this one. What rolled out in 2018 wasn't designed for daily commutes or gentle weekend cruises. It carried a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 that pushed 840 horsepower and 770 pound-feet of torque when fed the right race fuel. That combination launched it from 0 to 60 in a staggering 2.3 seconds, a number that stepped into supercar territory without bothering to knock. And on the quarter mile, 9.65 seconds straight off the showroom floor. No bolt-ons, no tuning, just factory madness. But the wild part isn't just the numbers, it's how it got them. A trans brake hidden inside an automatic, a drag mode suspension, and skinny front drag radials that looked more like they belonged in the pits than on a dealership lot. It even pulled a certified wheelie, a production car, lifting its front tires. That alone made purists whisper and regulators sweat. Still, even monsters have weak spots. That outrageous speed relied heavily on ideal conditions and the right fuel mix. Run it on 91 octane, and it felt noticeably tamer. Its hefty weight didn't help on tight roads, and cooling issues showed up during repeated hard runs. But maybe that was the point. This wasn't built to be civilized. It was created to do one thing with brutal commitment: erase the quarter mile faster than anything wearing license plates had any right to. And if this is number 10, you might want to brace yourself for what comes next. 9. 2023 Dodge Challenger Demon 170. It arrived like the final chapter of an era, one last swing from a company determined to leave scorch marks on the pavement before stepping away from big displacement insanity. And before we say its name, just know this: no factory muscle car has ever launched so violently that drivers joked about needing medical insurance for their spine afterward. That alone should tell you what kind of thunder is coming. The 2023 Dodge Challenger Demon 170 took the familiar 6.2-liter Hemi and transformed it into something unrecognizable. On E85, its supercharger pushed out a monstrous 1,025 horsepower and 945 pound-feet of torque. Numbers that didn't creep past the competition, they erased it. This thing hit 0 to 60 in 1.66 seconds. So quick it felt like the world jumped backward. And over the quarter mile, it delivered the kind of time that once belonged only to full-blown drag cars. 8.91 seconds at 151 miles per hour. A street-legal, warranty-backed production car running eights. But what made it truly unsettling was the engineering hiding underneath. Dodge revamped the fuel system, crank, drive shaft, and rear end to survive the chaos. The suspension squatted like it was bracing for an explosion, and the launch was so aggressive, it felt more like being fired down the strip than accelerating. It didn't move, it attacked. Of course, even monsters have limits. On regular pump gas, it lost some of its madness. Street driving could feel punishing, and without sticky prep, that power just liquefied the tires. And then there's the rarity. Most fans would never even see one outside a YouTube thumbnail. Still, nothing diminishes what it represents. The loudest, wildest farewell to American muscle ever put in showrooms. If you're enjoying this content, smash the like button and subscribe for more car videos. And if number 9 feels this unhinged, what follows only gets more unpredictable. 8. 2020 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 500 DCT. It came from a lineage known for brute force, yet this one carried a kind of precision that felt almost suspicious. Like someone at Ford decided the last pony standing shouldn't just be powerful, it should be unnervingly sharp. And before the badge is said out loud, here's your clue. This was the first muscle car that could intimidate supercars, not with raw chaos, but with calculation. The 2020 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 500 didn't lean on nostalgia or old-school charm. It arrived with a hand-built 5.2-liter supercharged V8 pushing 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque, numbers that were outrageous on their own. But what really rewrote the script was the 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. No manual, no lag, just lightning strikes disguised as gear shifts. That setup blasted it from 0 to 60 in about 3.3 seconds and down the quarter mile in roughly 10.6 seconds, making it the quickest factory Mustang ever created. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, just the most lethal when the lights dropped. What made it stand out wasn't brute muscle alone, but how ruthlessly it delivered that muscle. The DCT shifted with a kind of cold precision that almost felt at odds with American tradition, launching the car forward with zero drama and maximum violence. Track junkies worshipped its composure, drag racers respected its consistency. It was the muscle car that decided to grow fangs and sharpen them. Yet even this machine carried a few shadows. With no manual, purists felt betrayed. Its weight made tight corners a constant negotiation, and repeated hard runs pushed cooling systems right to their edge. And despite all its brilliance, it still lived in the long shadow of its louder, more outrageous rivals. But make no mistake, this was the Mustang that proved refinement can be just as terrifying as raw power. And if you want to ride with us through the rest of the list, hit that subscribe button, because the next cars get even wilder. 7. 2020 Chevrolet COPO Camaro. It wasn't built for daily drives or weekend flexing. This one came from a shadowy corner of Chevrolet's playbook, the part where production rules get flexible. And before we bring up its name, here's all you need to know. This was the muscle car so committed to the quarter mile that Chevy didn't even bother making it street legal. That alone separates it from every normal Camaro ever sold. The 2020 Chevrolet COPO Camaro carried the spirit of the late 60s factory drag wars, but with modern brutality. Depending on the configuration, you could get a naturally aspirated 427 cubic inch V8 or a shrieking supercharged 350, each tuned to do one thing: erase the distance between the lights and the traps as fast as class rules would allow. Horsepower ratings weren't officially advertised, but insiders whispered numbers well north of 600 horsepower for the big block setups and far more when the supercharged variants were unleashed. Quarter-mile times regularly dropped into the mid-8s to low 9s, cementing its status as a factory-built weapon disguised as a limited production collectible, not a commuter, not a showpiece, a purpose. But what made it almost eerie was how focused it was. This wasn't a muscle car trying to be balanced or versatile. It had a single talent, and it pursued that talent with tunnel vision. Everything felt engineered around one violent moment: launch. The chassis braced for war, the suspension squatted aggressively, and the power delivery felt like it was tuned by someone who didn't believe in second chances. It existed purely to embarrass anything foolish enough to line up beside it. Still, its strengths also created its weaknesses. No van meant no road plates. Production was tiny, making it more myth than machine for most fans. And in the hands of anyone without drag strip discipline, it was a quick way to meet a wall. But maybe that danger is part of its appeal: a factory car that demanded respect the moment you touch the throttle. Now here's the real question. If you had the keys to a COPO for one night, would you actually run it or keep it untouched as a collector's trophy? Let us know in the comments. 6. 2015 Dodge Charger Hellcat. It looked like a family sedan that accidentally wandered onto the wrong side of town. 4 doors, big trunk, the kind of car you'd expect to see shuttling kids to school. But underneath that ordinary silhouette lives something far louder, far meaner, and far more unhinged than anyone expected. Before we drop its name, here's the clue. This was the moment Dodge decided even practicality deserved a supercharged nightmare under the hood. The 2015 Dodge Charger Hellcat arrived with a mission to destroy stereotypes. A sedan shouldn't have had a 6.2-liter supercharged Hemi V8, and it definitely shouldn't have unleashed 707 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque straight from the factory. Yet there it was, an everyday commuter capable of ripping from 0 to 60 in about 3.7 seconds and storming through the quarter mile in 11 seconds. 4 doors, running 11s. Nothing that looked this sensible had any business being that violent. What made it even wilder was how it delivered that force. The moment the supercharger whined up, the Charger stopped feeling like a sedan and started behaving like a runaway freight train. Long straights vanished in seconds. The rear tires clung on for dear life, and every launch felt like a dare, as if Dodge built it specifically to embarrass anything claiming to be a performance luxury car. It wasn't just fast, it was defiant, the kind of machine born purely to prove a point. Of course, there were cracks in the armor. Its weight made quick direction changes more choreographed than instinctive. fuel economy barely existed. And without perfect traction, that 707 horsepower turned into smoke and noise faster than most drivers expected. But flaws didn't matter. Not when the Hellcat delivered a level of absurd power wrapped in such an unassuming shape. This was the sedan that broke the rules, laughed about it, and then did another burnout for good measure. And the muscle cars waiting ahead, they only get more intense.